glad to have you on today. I want to introduce you to chat for those that might not know. This is Adam Dunn from TH Seeds, Hemp Hood Lab. You've done a lot. You've done a lot for the community in the cannabis industry, and you're the first cannabis guest we get to have on the stream, rightfully so. One of the first people I've looked up
Nice.
to in the cannabis market
Well,
for a
you go.
long time. And I guess let's start with like a little bit about like your history for those that don't know on Twitch, a little bit of your history in the cannabis game and how you got started.
Yeah, sure. Well, first of all, as far as the companies go, it's TH Seeds, and there's Hood Lamb, which was our clothing company, and then Hood Lab we developed when we got to Colorado. But the starting point was basically I moved to Amsterdam in 1989, and I'm sure a lot of people who listen on your show probably weren't even born in 1989, but um, or maybe somewhere. But in general, it was a different scene back then. I mean, cannabis was definitely on the downside as far as America goes. You didn't, it was like a definitely a bad time to be a stoner in America. Like and I felt it. So I was like, I guess at that time I was still only like 20 years old, and I had a chance to do a transatlantic from Florida on a boat, on a sailboat, like a 100-foot sailboat. And so I was like, shit, yeah, I'll get the fuck out of this place, because, like I said, America was definitely not such a great place to be a weed friendly person. So I got on the boat, and we traveled to Europe and to Greece and all over the place. And I basically got off the boat in England, and I realized that there was a ferry to go to Rotterdam. So I was like, man, I made it this close. I am definitely going to go to Amsterdam, because for me, that was like the dream, right? Since I was 16. And so I took a ferry over to Amsterdam, and I guarantee you within 30 seconds, I pretty much made my decision. I kind of got off the boat, stepped over a bunch of people getting high as I got off the train, and was like, oh my God, this is Mecca for me, right? It was like, combination of the vibe of the place, the weed and everything, but also just the fact that I saw my name everywhere. Right? I was like, oh, Amsterdam is Adam. I was like, this is me. I am here. You know what I mean? So I
You,
realized at that point that that's where I wanted to be, and I ended up spending the next 20 years there, and I pretty much scratched out the my cannabis existence by working in the Hash Museum,
I was gonna
which is
say,
a
yeah,
sort of
you
museum
started in the
dedicated.
Hash Museum, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So I started there, and the funny part about that was I was walking by. So my mom had come out to visit me after I'd been there for about 6 months or something, and we were walking by the Hash Museum, and she kind of made a joke and said, "Oh, that's where you should be working." And I was like, it just kind of stuck in my head, and it was funny because after she left, coincidentally, a friend of mine who owned a coffee shop called Homegrown Fantasy, he he recognized my appreciation for the cannabis plant because I went to his shop and I realized that there was nothing for Americans to read. You know what I mean? There was nothing in the shops. Like they had just kind of like very sterile atmosphere, and so you're getting high and you kind of want something to divert. So I basically took an Emperor Wears No Clothes, which is a book from Jack Herer, sort of the Bible of most of the people in the industry, and I took excerpts from that book, photocopied them, and put them into like a photo album, just to kind of make it a little more digestible, so people didn't have to read the whole book; they could just read little bits and pieces. And
Hmm.
so anyway, that just doing that one thing made that guy recognize, hey, you really like this, huh? And I was like, yeah. He's like, hey, my friend owns the Hash Museum. Maybe I'll get you a job over there. So basically, he got me a job there, and that the Hash Museum is owned by the same people that own Sensi Seeds, and Sensi Seeds is the premier seed distributor in the world. Really, they're one of the first. There was people doing it, a few people doing it before them, but they're the first ones to take it professionally to the next level and become an official business in Holland. So I started working there, and that progressed from there to me starting my own seed company in 1993, and that's how it all started. It's a long,
That's
long
and
wind.
that's
I
how
have
it
very
all became.
long-winded answers. I'm sorry.
No, that's great. That's a great introduction for a lot
Yeah.
of people that don't know what's going on. And like you moved back to Colorado, I believe, around the time, or you moved back to the United States around the time I was in Colorado, like what, like 2010 or so, or something like that, 2013 or
Yeah.
something like
Exactly.
that.
Exactly. Yeah, I moved back. Yeah, I came here in 2000 or to Colorado in 2009 for a minute, like just came through, and I realized at that moment that kind of like the same as I had when I went to Amsterdam and I got off the ferry and I was like, oh yeah, this is happening right now. You know, I came here and
I I
at that point I'd been in Holland for 20 years.
I
Yeah.
think that's possibly where we first met. It's all
Sorry.
kind of coming back to me. I think we first met at the Greenest Green for the first cannabis cup that came
Oh
through, and
yeah,
you were coming through as one of the
exactly.
judges. And that lemon G we grew was
Hmm.
stuff that I grew actually. So yeah, that's pretty funny. It's all coming back to me now. So
Yeah, because I came, and what was funny was I came to Colorado like just to check out the scene because I realized that Holland was kind of going down the tubes as far as the vibe went. I've been there for 20 years. The Dutch don't really appreciate cannabis. That's one thing that's different. Like people don't appreciate, people don't get. Like if you meet a Dutch person traveling, and the first thing you say to them is, "Oh, you're from Holland? You love weed?" They'd be like, "No, I don't like weed at all." And it's like it's a very small percentage of the population. Maybe about when I was there, it was about 3% of the population consumed cannabis. You know, which is really low, much lower than any illegal country, you know? So it proved right away that that's the system that works the best, right? Here's the system. You give everybody what they want and they kind of figure it out. And at a certain point, if they don't feel forced into it, they'll just do it, you know? Whereas, um, it's funny, a lot of Dutch people would come to America, go to California, for instance, be there for a few weeks, and smoke their very first joint. I'd be like, really? That is so weird. You know what I mean? Like, after living in a country where it's legal their entire life, but because they're in America, and because it was at that point, this is before even before legalization, but like this is when it was still had that underground vibe to them. You know what I mean? So they like went for it. But yeah, 2009, I came here, saw what was going on, went back to Holland, and within 24 hours of being home, I was sitting in a jail in Amsterdam because I'd been pulled over in my car and they smelled weed, you know? And I was like, what? Like, it blew my mind because I just come back from Colorado where I was driving around with my friends, getting high, going to shop, buying weed. And like, I was like, wait a minute, this is so weird. I felt more free in America than I did in Holland, you know what I mean, when it comes to cannabis. And so I pretty much made the decision that day, which was 24 hours after getting back from here, that I was done with Holland at that point. I kind of had it, you know. And then I moved here 2010 and started the first shop here in 2011, and that's probably when I met you. No, I met you in 2010 before I had my shop because I had not had my shop yet at that point. That's
Yeah, when I
so
was
yeah. See, it's coming back to me
traveling.
too.
Yeah. It's been a while, man. It's been a while. I've been at home here in Ohio, hanging out. We met up when I was consulting that group. They didn't end up obviously getting a license here in Ohio. Seems pretty tough. So I've just been kind of hanging out doing the real estate stuff and waiting for some law
Yeah,
changes. And
what was cool too was that the greenest green. You brought up something good though. The greenest green.
yeah,
Um, uh, definitely was a really good. I mean, to me, that had such a really positive vibe shop, and it had such a good energy to it, and it really made me like totally like I left there one day, and because I was wearing my hoodlum jacket, somebody drove by, was like hoodlum. I was like, man, this is weird. I never had that in Holland. I've never had people like excited about seeing me in my clothing. You know what I mean? But then I came there, and it was like genuine excitement for the scene, you know what I mean, for the industry. So that's kind of what I think the green is green was one of the reasons why I decided to move here, was because I went there and saw, because of course you could smoke at that time too, right? So it was like you go in, you could just buy some weed, sit down, have a smoke, chat, talk to people. I was like, that's to me, that is what cannabis is about. You know what I mean? It really needs to have the social element to be complete, which it
A-
doesn't really have right now. Yeah, you know, it's kind of there, but not quite.
Absolutely. I mean, those were some wild times back then. Like, I'm pretty sure Brad, shout out to Brad from the Greenest Screen, the owner, and who started all that, and probably how we got introduced in the
Mill
first
Shankers,
place. Yeah, he's an amazing dude, and we've kept in touch over
yeah,
the years. But yeah,
Brad's
I mean,
killing it too.
it,
I'm proud of Brad.
oh,
I'm proud of him.
he is definitely killing the game, man. I loved his book that he made about glass and everything he's doing with 710 Labs and everything like that.
Yep.
He's just crushing it. And we had a lot
Yeah,
of
it's all
fun back
He's
then.
he's a quality he's a quality orientated person, and that's what I try to strive for in my life. Is I call myself a qualitarian. It's like people say, oh, like I don't eat I don't eat meat, right? But I'll eat fish. But I'll eat, you know. So like to me, and then they say, oh, you're a pescatarian, and I'm like, no, not really. I just like quality. You know what I mean? I like high quality products, and fish happen to have a lot of high quality, uh, like fats and oils that you need. So those are the things. So that's my classification in life, and I think Brad was also a qualitarian.
Absolutely. I think that's how we all kind of found each other. I was when I moved to Colorado, I didn't know anybody, but I had the Lemon G from Ohio and Brad had graduated from Ohio State. And I just remember talking to people, just trying to find out
Sure.
who's interested in the headies. I remember the first time I moved to Colorado, I won a poker tournament for $15,000 and just moved myself and a couple friends out there.
That's awesome.
And I remember our first harvest, we just couldn't find anybody that would pay good money for our lemon G. And just through the grapevine on Facebook, some guy who was
Or
he was actually working with like the like whatever the local magazine is out there. He was like, you need to hit up Brad from Greenest Screen. He's
Rooster or
looking.
something.
Yeah,
Rooster.
yeah, yes, yes,
Was it
yes.
Rooster?
Yeah, and he was like, you need to hit up
Yeah.
Brad with the
Yeah.
lemon
Yeah.
G.
Exactly.
He's looking for it, and that's how we all kind of met up. And then Brad and I, and we all became good friends just because we were looking for high quality. Everybody was looking for the best quality. You know what I mean? And just wanted to have the best smoke around,
You
really.
qualitarians, you.
Yeah.
Yeah. See, I told you you're a qualitarian.
I'll take it. I'll
You didn't
take
believe
it.
me.
You might have
But in
coined
general,
something
yeah,
there.
I think I think the lemon G though, it's one of those plants that if you don't know it and you look at it, you're maybe not going to be so excited until you smoke it because it's not the prettiest plant. That's one of the things that plant has definitely does not have the beauty part figured out yet. It's kind of one of those the ugly duckling, but it sure as hell packs a punch and it's got amazing flavor and profile. So
Efficient says
I
100% in the
appreciate it.
chat. We're gonna have to get some. There's some new iterations that have been flowing over the years of the lemon G in our corner, so we'll have to figure out how to get some of that in your hands. It's definitely evolved. The oldest lemon G, you're so right, was so leafy and hard to trim, but the flavor was undeniable, and
But
I
just
was
had these
always
like
on the search.
it's more that it's yeah, it was leafy, but it also had those like twisted leaves too, which made it even more ugly. You know what I mean? Or like pointy and twisty and kind of not in the right direction. You know what I mean? Sometimes you get leafy stuff, which is elegant and beautiful, but it's kind of that one was more like leafy and kind of scraggly looking. But at first, but I mean, it also depends on the grower too. I mean, I say this, but then of course two was growing every time I saw it. So that who knows? Maybe it was his electricity that he was running through the plants or something. Because that was two's thing.
So let's
So
go
we
say,
created. It's funny because
go ahead.
THC's actually won a cup with the lemon G. You know that, right?
Yeah,
We won a cup with the lemon G.
yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely,
and
man.
that was the electric lemon, and that was the electric lemon G because two runs currents through his soil, which he's noticing less. Like as far as bug mitigation and mold mitigation, things like that. It's pretty interesting stuff.
Really, like a positive charge in the soil or like a grounding?
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, he runs like copper. He puts a copper into the ground and then runs a current through it and adjusted it. He went through a lot of experimentation. He was running really like much too high of currents in the beginning and frying out plants and stuff. But when you dial it in right, there's actually some group in Rhode Island that took the same technology and actually patented it and developed it for plants. So it's actually not even that crazy, because when you think about it, like when lightning strikes, it also does a very similar thing. That in that current, like it actually, uh, in general, electricity on a lower level is everywhere. You know what I mean? It's always around anyway. So it's just tapping into those frequencies that the plants that help the plants. And those, obviously you don't want to fry them up like you did, but in general, there's definitely some positive results you can get. You
It's kind of like
see
drinking
what I
that,
did
like,
there?
yeah, yeah. It's kind of like drinking that pH positive water or whatever.
Sure, exactly.
So, question. So,
So go ahead.
are you
What were
doing
you to?
Sage Master seeds currently?
Yes. So Sage Master Select, I do through Seeds Here Now, seedsherenow.com. So they're my distributor. I don't do it direct stuff because I'm kind of like, I'm still not. I come from the world of like, don't trust anything, and the idea that everybody gets on Instagram now and sells seeds and tries, and mail orders and does. I'm a little bit reluctant to be that guy, so I just hand my seeds off to a distributor and let him deal with all that stuff. It's a little bit safer. I
Absolutely,
feel,
absolutely. I agree 100%.
because we're still not there. Everybody forgets that we have states. You know what I mean? And when you cross state lines, you create problems. So you have to like think along those lines. So all my seed sales I do through Seeds Here Now, and let them deal with the distribution side of it all. And then we're actually starting a. I have a Sage Master Select farm. I have two farms in Oklahoma that are current. Well, one is up and running. The other one is being built. And then we have another, and the one that's up and running is called Top Quality. It's in Tulsa. So if you happen to be in Tulsa, and keep an eye out for that. They don't have a retail shop yet. They're just doing production at the moment. But we're on at least 30 shelves. It's apparently apparently I haven't been there. But we're also starting another farm here in Colorado in Moffett this year, an outdoor farm
Awesome.
at Area 420, which is an amazing thing, which we can talk about if you want. But it's the only cannabis park in Colorado, so it's literally right now there's 51 active licenses on this one property. There will be over 300 in 2 years once phase three is over. So imagine 300 plus grows in a industrial park kind of setup, right? And so that means 46.3% of all of the licenses in Colorado will be on that one property in 3 years. It's a pretty amazing situation.
Oh, wow. So are
So
they
so
making the
just think
majority of people
massive.
move to that building?
No, it's not a building. It's a property. It's amazing. It's a 420-acre ranch. Coincidentally, right? Just happens to be that's the way it was actually cut at one point. So it's a 420-acre ranch with a 420-foot deep well. Just happens to be, and the town only has 160 people in it. So uh, the mayor is on the board. He has the mayor's on the board. Everybody has a medical marijuana card. Everyone is licensed. So it's literally going to be cannabis town, which is amazing.
Wow, that is amazing. Whatever happened with like Pueblo and stuff like that? Is Pueblo still blowing up or?
Pueblo still has the largest grows, like in America, I believe. The one is the largest one, but the difference between it is those are all individual licenses, of course, and so this is like a unique situation because it's multiple licenses on one
All one
location.
big
But
property.
Pueblo
Yeah.
has still got the biggest. Like they have yeah, it's one property which has been subdivided into individual licenses. Um, Acres, like you can buy. So 1 acre is $200,000 and includes a license. So it's a pretty interesting situation because it's the oops, sorry, had my alarm set for you, in case I missed. But in general, it's a unique situation too, because also they have a social equity program there, and they allow felons to work in the industry also, which is now opening up, which is also amazing, because that was also a problem of all the people that got busted for cannabis couldn't work in cannabis. Like, really? You should be the first ones. You should be first in line, in my opinion, right? And
Right,
that's what they're doing
absolutely.
now, is they're creating this social equity program so that they can participate, which is great.
Man, that's really cool to hear. I wish Ohio could follow in the footsteps. We've, absolutely kept ourselves on the back burner, and all I see in Ohio are posts of people just mad at the system here. So hopefully we can correct that in the next couple years.
Yeah. Well, you guys tried to kind of like monopolize it, right? I mean, that was the problem with that one. It was one of those, hey, we're gonna open it up, but we're only gonna allow 3 or 4 people to do. Was that the situation? Stuff like that?
Yeah, yeah, it was like 20. It was originally only going to be 10 grow licenses, and those 10 people sponsored it, and that kind of got shut down because it was too monopolistic. So then they turned it into 20 grow
Yeah.
licenses, but even then it was almost impossible to get one, and we found all this backdoor collusion going on between the people who issued the licenses. Conveniently, a lot of very large and very wealthy people got them, not that very many smaller people that went for it, which we knew. Everybody knew that going in, that this was probably just a long
Yeah.
shot, and you're just kind of preparing a business plan for later. So, but
Yeah.
it's
Well,
been
you
a
know,
fun journey.
the number one rule in the cannabis industry is never take the first deal. You know, never take the first deal, and that's kind of where I think you guys probably had the right idea there anyway, because it, people are too eager to sign the paper here. You know, because the problem is with cannabis, we've been held back for so long, so that now, you know, people just take that. Oh, okay, well, you're going to let us do this? Sure, but you got to really read the fine print, because there's always like there's always a better deal, and that's usually the problem of a lot of times people getting involved into industries like this that are excited about it, because there is a lot of, there's a lot of possibilities, but there's also many more people than you thinking of this. But you're not the only one usually, and especially when it comes to cannabis, there's a lot of people out there that have been waiting for this moment forever, and they're
Absolutely,
just too quick to say yes.
absolutely, and just try and hop on any deal they can to kind of get in the game.
Yeah,
So
well, I mean, I think I've watched you maneuvering through the industry too, so I know all these all of these lessons hard. So
Oh my god, I've had some fun ones. Get everything in paper. Get everything in writing and plan your future before you start. No, no, just like, all right, we'll figure it out later, because that figuring it out later does not work.
that's
that's
right.
that's for sure. Are you so with COVID and everything, have you been able to travel? Have you been locked down in Colorado?
I did a little traveling. I did a little traveling here and there, but for the, kind of like everybody, I've been definitely put a hamper in my program for, like, if I look at what I did, like where I was doing, a year ago, well, more than a year ago now, but yeah, the cannabis industry it's crazy how much, as how many trade shows we had to go to, how many different deals we had to go just see, or places, go have go meet each other in a meeting or whatever. I traveled like crazy for the last 3 years, or 3, 4 years, to the point of like, wanting to stop traveling, and then all of a sudden getting forced the other way around, where it's like, now I'd like to go somewhere. But it's been definitely a lot lower, as far as traveling goes. I think the idea of some of it has been positive in the sense that, like, hey, you know what? We probably all don't need to spend thousands of dollars to fly to Vegas, to sit around in a room together, to not really even do any business, and then go waste a bunch more money, and then go waste a bunch more money, and then come home and then not even really remember what you did in the first place. That was pretty much half of the cannabis things I did. You know what I mean? Where you're just like, now we could just get on a Zoom meeting, get everything else we would have done probably even better, because we actually are all concentrating, and actually, still have time with your family and stuff. So there's been some positives coming out of it where, there hasn't been a lot of as much wasted time, let's say, but it's definitely put a hamper on the program for a lot of people and myself.
We've been able to put the time into the Adam Dunn podcast, which is always really fun to check into on Fridays. How's that been
Yep,
going
that's been
throughout the
keeping
year?
me. That's been going great. That's actually been going better and better. And the thing about the show, which it's great because it's every Friday. It's always 4:20 to 7:10. I have to be there. I have to make the show happen. I got to find guests. I got to do it. So there's things that kind of keeps everything going in a positive way, where it's like, and it's only week to week, and it changes every week. So I don't have the monotonous thing of having to do the same thing every time. And since I'm the host, I can do whatever I want. And as far as guests go and changing the vibe, I got a really good crew of people helping me out. I've got a great so what it all comes down to is, like, I watch so many people do podcasts and they try to do everything themselves, and I realized quickly that if I'm going to do the show, I can't be doing the tech stuff, and I can't try. Like, you can do it. There's some people out there that are amazing. They can run the board, do the thing, do the interview. I figured out that I can't do that. I have to have somebody else. I have a great guy. I've got MTI Mark, who's runs all the tech stuff for me, and he keeps it smooth. And I have Mel, and she does all the internet shit for me. So that keeps everything going. And we're on Twitch, actually. We have a Twitch channel now, and we have we have I think we're on 9 platforms now. So it's getting somewhere. You know what I mean? Where we're getting a decent reach. I think now our imprints are like 500,000 at the end of the month. So like not actual views, but imprints. So it's getting somewhere. We're getting some reach. It's nice.
Absolutely, man. I've been a long time fan of it and watching it progress and everything like that. Is So High Gallery? Are you still open with that or?
No, no, we closed So High a while ago, a couple of years ago almost.
Yeah,
Um, that place was just it was a
expensive.
classic. I mean, it was the funny thing though. That's my last retail shop I'll probably ever have. You know what I mean? Because I don't see myself opening up another retail shop personally. I mean, maybe we'll have some kind of a dispensary situation or something like that. But as far as like my original concept, which was a clothing store slash, hangout, which seed shop, which is kind of our original concept that we had back in the day.
Hmm.
I think those days are over just because the whole idea of retail is kind of different now. You know what I mean? It's a whole
Online.
different game, and I don't know
Yeah.
if I'm as interested. Yeah, and I'm just not I mean, the problem is uh, no, I still love retail because I love the idea of the experience, and I think people need to experience things like that. It's funny because over time, like there was a moment where everybody just got online, and the convenience is so high, so that it becomes very addictive to be able to just order something, have it delivered, and not have to go and to a store. But what's funny is there's people who are young enough that are gonna, in a few years from now, that are technically, some of them may never step into a real store besides a big box store. You know what I mean? They may not step into a small, in, family owned business ever, which is crazy. Like, because that's the way we're going. It's the way that people are pushing stuff. And I think that's sad because that is kind of like, I think that's the biggest problem of this whole COVID thing, is that it's taking out the sort of the soul of America when it comes to the small businesses and things like that. Is we're getting less and less diverse. We're becoming more and more monotone kind of culture. So I think that's it. Yeah, I think people need to support local businesses as much as possible if they can, and like kind of remember that it's like grow shops. I don't know. That's a great example as far as like, think about your local grow shop back in the day when you didn't really know. You had to go and ask questions and talk to people and get some responses, and you had your little repertoire with the person that works there. And now you just go online and look for the cheapest version of what you're looking for. You know what I mean? And that's
That
totally a different experience. And I think
that was
it's sad because all those grow shop owners are friends of ours.
absolutely, that was one of my issues with when I started to kind of go do my own light thing. Number one, I could never raise enough money to get that done, but number two, I had a list from another friend of mine that worked in the big industry, and she worked for a large distributor that closed down. I'm not going to mention names or anything, but she gave me a list of like basically
Right.
all the grow stores in the world, basically that they work with. And I was calling all these grow shops,
Uh-huh.
and literally it was so depressing. Every small grow shop I talked to was either about to close or had
Yeah.
already closed. And it was a very depressing thing to
Right.
realize how different the industry was, how much it had changed in just a year or two, and how much that affected so many small business owners around the country. And you're right, I think that was a microcosm of kind of what happened during COVID. That was like foreshadowing what then COVID just accelerated for every other
Yeah.
industry.
Sure. Yeah, we were already, as always, we've been primed for the disappointment. Like that's like part of the cannabis industry is we always experience a lot of these things first. You know what I mean? Because I mean, I don't want to say I don't want to say, oops, sorry, I lost you for a second there. I don't want to say like, we're oppressed beyond belief because there's many other people that are oppressed worse than us. But cannabis people have always been fringed, have always been pushed to the side a little bit and have also experienced sort of, like the experience of being the sort of second class citizen a long time, for a long time. And always, you know, uh, it's kind of like the jocks and the stoners when you were a kid in school, right? Stoners got everything, or the stoners got shafted, the jocks got everything, right? Because they're the good kids supposedly, but they just be out drinking every night, right? And you'd be like, wait a minute, those guys drink alcohol, drive their cars, run over people. We're just over here sitting in the corner getting high, and we're the bad people. You know what I mean? It was like the classic scenario. But these days, everybody sort of is now feeling it. So I think for a lot of people in the industry, it's like, oh, this is just a normal day for us, right? We're self isolation, and that's what we've been doing forever. We've always, never answer your door, don't talk to anybody, like barely, try to keep to yourself, do your own thing. You know what I mean? Like that's been the classic kind of the stoner sort of way of doing things forever, right?
Right, right. Funny little side thing I wanted to ask, going down this road, is how do you think, remember like cup cough and stuff like that post COVID? How is that going to change all these like Emerald Cup and all the cup events and just smoking gatherings?
Oh,
What do you think that's going to do to stuff like that?
yeah, it's I think it's well, it's strange too because like with the whole cup cough, like you were saying, we learned a long time ago that you got to be careful at those events because you're sitting around, you got it was kind of like a microcosm of what's happening now, right? You got an event with maybe say there's 50,000 people at an event. Well, somebody there is sick, right? And they're running around smoking joints with everybody, and so you learn quickly, like, okay, when I go to these events, what I do is I pre-roll like 20 joints, and then I get to the event, I light up a joint, I take a couple hits, I pass the joint, I never take it
Never.
back, right? You learn the protocol, right? You learn the protocol. Never take a joint, always give a joint, then you're going to be fine. You know what I mean? And then you have a rhythm going on. Whereas if you don't, you're standing around, you're taking a hit off of everybody's joint. There's a high percentage chance that you're going to end up getting the cough, right? So now it's like we've already kind of pre-trained ourselves over time, and now you just got to like think that yes, there's going to be a lot more people who are not going to be sharing anything. They're going to be more like, I'll have my own pipe, you'll have your own pipe, you'll have your own thing. I think, but at the same time, I also feel like part of the reason why a lot of my friends, at least, haven't gotten sick, I believe, is that maybe that has helped over the years that we've all, you know, adapted because once you get into once you go down the rabbit hole of like microbes, and you start understanding how we all connect and work together, and how we work with plants, and how the plants work with us. Like when I take a cutting of a plant, I'll immediately take that cutting and put it into my mouth. Like I'll take the tip of the stem and put it into my mouth, and while I cut the second cut, right? And then I'll cut the next cut and I'll do the same thing. And I'll do that for like 2 or 3 cuts, and then I'll take those out and put them into water. And then what you're doing is you're transferring your DNA to that plant's DNA, and you're actually communicating with the plant, right? Because the plant now the plant knows your DNA makeup and is your plant for you and can adjust to your DNA. That's how fucking deep that shit goes, right? So when you start thinking on a microbial level of the transfer of information, it's like when we isolate ourselves and we sterilize everything, we're definitely not helping our immune system at all. You know what I mean? I think we're hurting you're definitely hurting your immune system. So you need to expose yourself technically to a lot of things to build up your immune system properly. And that's where I feel stoners kind of have a little bit of an advantage because we are swapped so much fucking spit with so many friends and so many times that we've actually created pretty strong immune systems over the time, you know. And
Absolutely.
and I think that's one of the reasons why a lot of us don't get sick. Yeah, for
Yeah.
sure. And that's people don't get it, but like we exchange we exchange so much shit back and forth. Like think about like how many trade shows you've gone to and shook like hundreds of people's hands and smoked joints with and hung out with in hotel rooms. We're all transferring tons and tons of fucking stuff back and forth, and it's actually important in a sense. It's part of the deal. You're not supposed to not do it. You're supposed to do it. So it is kind of a weird. So I feel like the more we isolate ourselves, the more sick that people are going to end up getting.
Absolutely. I always said it's kind of like whatever happened to going out and playing in the mud, Maybe some of that creek time I got playing outside as a kid was probably good for that immune system in the future, you know what I mean? Have
It,
you
yeah,
I kn-
absolutely mandatory because that's the thing is people like kids that are born with a C-section nowadays, they don't even get that initial blast from their mom. You know what I mean? The whole point of a natural childbirth is to actually inoculate your child. That's what it does. The mother inoculates the child, gives all of her immune system to that child, and then that's why moms after they give childbirth they are very susceptible to infections because their immune system is so low because they physically have given it to their child through the process of childbirth. So it's kind of you know, and people don't get that, and then they're like, oh, I don't want my wife to have a fat stomach or to have any stretch marks, so I'm going to get her a C-section. And then the kid's got allergies his entire life, and he's not ever. And kid's always got problems because he never got that initial dose from his or her mother. So I think we gotta realize that part of being a human being is developing a very strong, robust immune system, and the only way to do that is to expose yourself to as much things as possible and let your body figure it all out. And that's it's kind of like plants. It's the same thing when you baby plants and like spray them with all sorts of pesticides and things like that to try to protect them from bad evil bugs. They have no resistance to those bugs, and then all of a sudden when they do get those bugs they're completely shot. Whereas if you get a plant, you let it kind of deal with it at a certain point, you treat it mildly and let the plant sort of build its immune system up at the same time as you mechanically take those bugs away from the plant or do something on a very simple level, not like I'm going to come in and nuke the entire crop and just eliminate all the good, the bad, everything, and then expect that to have good results, which it
ab-
doesn't. You got to think long term on everything.
Absolutely, absolutely. I see you got a lot of art behind you. I know you're an art guy, and I know people in cannabis have been into cryptocurrency, way before I guess a lot of the
Yeah.
mainstream. Are you into any of the like NFT
hmm
artwork or anything like that?
I just actually heard about all this NFT artwork. No, I'm lucky enough that I got paid in Bitcoin. Um, kind of every kind of like I had certain customers that always wanted to pay me in Bitcoin, so I'd be like, sure. So I opened up a Bitcoin account for them, and then I never spent it. So I had quite up until a point, and then the funny thing is I've seen the wave a few times where I'd be like, "What? You mean that's I've got money all of a sudden? Oh." And then but then everybody tells me, but you can't use it, and it's all like, I'm like, bullshit, you can't use it. I can use it. So then I have actually. I mean, it's sad because now I start thinking about the Bitcoin that I've spent. Right? I'm like, why did I do? Why did I do it? But you know, it depends on. I never lost money on it. I always made money, and it always felt like, you know, okay, it was a blessing that I got. You know, when I got paid, it was maybe at like 6,000, and when I cashed it out, it was at 25,000 or something. You know what I mean? So it was always like, no, that was good. That was worth. But now, if I look back, I'm like, shit, I could have like probably about 20 coins by now if I was like, if I didn't, like, you know, spend them all along the way. But I have friends who bought into it in Amsterdam, and that's the funny part is I don't even understand how I didn't get involved when I was in Amsterdam, because that's kind of like the epicenter of a lot of it. Like it really, like Amsterdam's always been very up on any kind of outside of the system kind of shit. Holland seems to be right in there with it. You know what I mean? And so I remember, like, my friend bought 2 coins for $1,100, at that point I was like, I don't have any money on me. You know what I mean? And he still has those 2 coins, and he's just riding those 2 coins to the end. You know what I mean? But I talked to him, and he's like, "Yeah, man. He's like, I spent $1,100. That's $550 each, or, you know." And I remember the day because the guy was offering them to me, and I was like, $500. Oh, that's too much. You know what I mean? Like, I thought it was too much at that point. So, uh, my fault for not spending a few G's at that point. You know.
Absolutely, I look back
But
and
you know, it's
think
it's
the
it's
same.
interesting to see. Like, yeah, it's definitely one of those things that you don't want to beat yourself up over it, because you're not the only one, and there's people out there who have made way bigger mistakes and lost their codes and lost their hard drives, or done something stupid along those lines. But I think that the cryptocurrency thing is, it to me is the reason I love it is that it's standing everything on its head, but at the same time, it's kind of like cannabis, right? When we all loved it, it was underground and cool, right? And it had a vibe to it, and it had, like, you met very cool people because everybody's taking a risk to be where they were, right? Everybody wanted to, like, if you really wanted to smoke weed, you had to go out of your way to get it, find the right people, vet those people, make sure you avoid trouble, uh, find the quality, understand quality, all these little things. And nowadays, it's like, you know, a kid that's maybe turning 21 these days, or 18, depending on the place you're at. Let's say the kid's turning 21 and he's never smoked weed, but he has a choice of thousands of stores that he can go to, and he can travel the world and go to different places. It's a totally different world. And so the quality, I'm not going to say that the quality of the people has gone down entirely, because I can't, like, judge everybody like that. But in my opinion, the quality of the people is definitely, in the cannabis world, has gone down, because now we have corporate minded, money grubbing kind of people who really don't love weed or care about weed, but they love the what they do, which is, you know, sell to the people who love weed. And so you end up with just like a different vibe to the whole thing. And I feel like that's kind of where the cryptocurrencies are going to end up, because, like, right now it's cool. It's like we're fucking the system, right? But once JP Morgan and all of these guys fall into line, which they will very soon, like sooner than you think, all of a sudden we're going to miss the almighty dollar, power, having paper money in our hands, because that's going to seem like the fuck the system. You know what I mean? Like, now all of a sudden, when you spend a dollar, when I spend cash now, I feel like I'm fucking the man. You know what I mean? Because everything's through credit, and it's all about knowing exactly what you bought, when you bought it, where you bought it, so I can now target you to buy more and more and more. Like, it's getting so much like that now cash is the only thing you can spend and stay anonymous. You know what I mean? It's crazy. It's like the exact, like, opposite. Whereas, like, so Bitcoin was that for the longest time. Oh, you can go on Silk Road, you can do this, you can be anonymous. Well, they're going to make it soon that, yeah, you can be anonymous, but you can't spend it anywhere except for on crap like that. You know what I mean? So the minute you want to go buy a car with it, which you have, like, you might have, say you have 20 Bitcoins that you managed to collect. Now you have millions and millions of dollars, but you can't spend it legally anywhere because you're back to that same system. They kind of fucking flip the whole system on us, you know? So I
Yeah, yeah.
kind of feel like it's good. It's good, but it's not gonna be good forever. It's gonna soon be like, oh, they tricked us again, because right now we love the convenience of being able to know that we are outside the system. We can look at our phones every day and watch our money grow and drop and grow and drop. and grow and drop and drop and grow. And then one day you cash it out. But the only way to cash it out now is to go through a bank or to get raped at a ATM. You know what I mean? There's like they're definitely not making it to the point where the convenience is there. But once the convenience is there, which it's about to be, it's only going to be convenient if you are 100% squeaky clean, because if you're not, where did that come from? You know what I mean? And everything is so much more trackable on Bitcoin than on cash or credit. It's even more trackable. It's trackable beyond trackable. It's trackable forever on millions of computers. You know what I mean? So it's kind of a, I don't know. It's an interesting dichotomy where it's like I love it, but I also see the future being a little bit more controlled because of the fact that uh, Bitcoin is Bitcoin because it's a smart. I love Bitcoin as itself, but when it comes to all the other cryptocurrencies, they don't really have the same built-in sort of thing about having limited amounts and things like that. That's what I don't like so much. When you have an unlimited amount of crypto, then you're back to square one of the whole same reason why we're in the problem with the dollar, with the petrodollar.
Right, right. And a lot of a lot of the altcoins are junk, and it's so hard to find good projects. It seems like Bitcoin is definitely it's the one that's catching the eye. It's in the news. When you hear about like PayPal and Square and these banks getting in on it, they're not saying Bitcoin
Yeah,
and Ethereum and these other coins. They're like Bitcoin. We're buying Bitcoin, you know?
yeah, yeah. It's become synonymous. Like it is the cryptocurrency of all cryptocurrencies. Well, the thing about it though is that we're fastly approaching a reality check though, because what I mean, last I read, they've found about 18.5 million of the 21 million coins, right? So that's not a lot of coins left, and now you're going to see the things are going to change. I think in the next 3 to 5 years, where it's like, you know, there's still coins out there, but once there's no more coins out there, unless it's a ruse, right? The whole time we've been told there'll never be new coins. Unless it's somehow they produce more, which would then change the entire dichotomy of the whole thing. It's going to become interesting to see. Like, no one's going to want to tell anybody they have Bitcoin, because people are going to be out to steal your Bitcoin, and it'll be crazy, the amount of security that'll be involved. The other thing I don't like about cryptocurrencies, the only other thing I don't like about it is the energy usage is retarded. Like it's it's crazy when you think about how much actual physical energy it requires to just keep these things in check. It's amazing. It's not sustainable in a long-term sort of scenario.
I agree with that. I've tried to mine since 2017 and built the computers and ordered the ones from China, and they use a ton of energy. They put off a ton of heat, and it's I don't know. I don't know
Yeah,
if it's sustainable in the long run. A lot's got to be done there. It's a new technology and whatnot, so who knows what's going to happen. What are your thoughts on like this year?
yeah.
Any events coming up this year that you're excited for? Is anything getting booked for this summer or next fall yet, or is everybody still in kind of a holding pattern for the next few months to kind of let vaccines and stuff get out there?
I see a lot of things opening up. I see a lot of things opening up. People are talking about events happening, and it's funny. Like NoCo is happening this over here in Colorado. NoCo is going to happen, and everybody's like, it's just funny because like I'm on both sides of the fence. People are like, so you're going to go to NoCo, right? And I'm like, yeah, normally I would, but I'm not so sure. I just don't know. It's like, are we going? Are we not going? But yeah, I think it's gonna open up, and I think people are eager to do that. But at the same time, it's still gonna be like I'd still feel weird about traveling too far. Like that's where it's all gonna become a problem. Like right now, NoCo, no problem. It's down the road. I can go there in a heartbeat. But once it comes to the whole traveling part and all that, I think it's gonna become harder and harder. To really plan those kind of things. Um, like things like MJ BizCon, I'm kind of glad I'm glad it kind of hit like right at their stride. You know what I mean? Like, cool. Don't think it's that easy to get money out of us because it was starting to get to the point where there was just show after show after show after show, and if you wanted to be in this industry, you either had to hire like a B team to run around and do all these shows for you, which then you're not a real good representation of what you're doing, or you just had to be like realize that you're not really going to be home for half the year because you're going to be spending it in hotels, traveling around, going show to show. You know, to me, yeah, I'm not too worried about the fact that we haven't been able to do stuff, just because I also think when it does start again, uh, it's going to be a little different than it was before. So
I hope so. I'm definitely with you.
I have no vaccinations.
I
I
was
have
gonna.
no vaccinations, and I don't plan on getting any. But at the same time, I'm just waiting for the day when they're like, you are now the unvaccinated. You know what I mean? Which becomes like another whole. You're now another whole classification of citizens. You know, which is happening. Which is happening.
Another title to throw at you.
Exactly. Not only are you that, but you are unvaccinated. Yeah.
I kind of miss events, but I do hope you're right. I definitely don't miss the grind of literally I mean, more than right. More than half the year I was on the road, you know. So I don't miss like the long grind of it, but I do miss like some of the key events like Emerald Cup and, you know, MJ BizCon was fun
Yeah.
at the end of the year to party with everybody at the end of the year, you know. So I kind of want to get back to a few
Yeah.
of them, you know, and kind of get the feet wet again and go have some fun and do it more on like a live streaming, just kind of fun media side of things this time. I feel like, you know, I'm excited to hop back
Yeah.
into it.
I think it's going to be interesting to see how people now incorporate the idea, because like the virtual shows did not go over very well as
Of
far as I
course.
was concerned. Like I tried to log in on one of them, and it was kind of I think Champs. I logged in on Champs, and it was just weird and tiring it was really tiring to like sit there and try to figure it all out half the time. But I think if they do, I think what's going to happen is there's going to be a lot of like crossover shows where there's going to be people there. It's going to be live, but there's going to be an incredibly heavy video presence and virtual presence there, because they unless they don't if they don't do that, they're going to lose a lot of people, because again, if we're back to the same situation of, well, we'd love to come, but we can't because our boss didn't get his vaccination, blah, blah, blah. There's going to be a million different excuses of reasons why we can't go. So I think if people are smart about it, and I'm sure there are plenty of people getting involved on this side of it all, but there'll be a kind of like almost like an augmented reality version of every show. You know what I mean? Where you can go via your phone, or you can go via your iPad, or you can go via your feet. It's up to you. Like however you want. You want to go walk the show, walk the show. If you don't, just go virtually. And I think it'll tighten up over time, because people as technology gets better, as the ability to people to stream faster happens, then I think we'll have these kind of like, yeah, somewhere between live and virtual shows.
Yeah, or a good mix of the two, you know. If you can't make it, you can always log in virtually and see everything, and if you want to hit the floor, you can hit the floor, you know.
Yeah. What's really funny is that for years, I've been talking about, those, you've seen those robots they have that you put your iPad on them and they ride around for you, and they can you can control it from your home iPad. And so I've been saying for years that I just need to put a beard on put a beard on an iPad, stick the iPad on it, and just go around the show, and I can just see everybody that I need to see without having to go to the shows, because there was so many of them to go to, and now 100% that starts to become real, where I'm like, I think this is going to happen because I think I'm going to have to do it. But yeah, it's kind of that's kind of where I see the shows going, where you'll see like 30 or 40 robots going. Like, you want to rent a robot, we can let you run around, you can mingle a little bit like that. That might be the way that goes in the future. Who knows?
What's some stuff you've seen in the cannabis industry that you think is cutting edge right now? Anything that really stands out to you? Any new products or
Um,
services?
Yeah, I mean, I think in the, like, for instance, in the extraction world, I think the idea that now I think people are starting to tune into the idea of cryogenically curing their cannabis so that they freeze dry, like basically freeze drying everything pre extraction, which would then increase your well, it would increase your like surface area because when you freeze dry anything, you don't reduce the size of the plant as much. Like so, if you have a bud that's 3 inches long and you put it into a freeze dryer, it comes out 3 inches long. You know, it doesn't lose its size at all. So they creates more surface area, which then when you're doing your extractions creates more product. So that's one thing I think is interesting because now everybody's been doing freeze drying pre as far as their isolator go, as far as making like when they're making their bubble hash, use a freeze dryer to just speed the process up and keep the terps in and things like that. But when it comes to large scale production, I've seen some interesting uh, uses of cryogenically dry. Like so, CryoCure is one of the companies doing that. They're just doing they're not doing the extraction side. They're just doing the freeze drying side, but on a scale that is like thousands of pounds per day instead of you know a normal freeze dryer that only has three little racks in it that you can barely hold 100 grams of hash on.
That's
So
pretty.
that's one thing I think is interesting. That's going to be, God damn this alarm. That's going to definitely be an interesting improvement in that side of it all. I think as far as interesting things in the industry, I mean, I think the most interesting thing to me is the fact that people are finally realizing, that no-till grown cannabis, 100% organically grown no-till, um, with just teas and real minimal inputs produces such a superior product that they're finally getting to the point where it's kind of like people have exhausted all of the other techniques of growing except for there's plenty of them out there that still grow with rock wool and they're just straight up Dutch style. But I think what's happening is there's a sort of shift in the industry where maybe the qualitarians are starting to uprise. I don't know, but in general, I think people have realized organic cannabis is 100% better than any salt grown, you know, bottle fed cannabis out there, and I think that's funny enough. The future is going back to simplistic forms. You know what I mean? And that's kind of to me that's an evolution in itself because it means that a lot of people have they've done the NFT, they've done the deep water culture, they've done the flood and drain, they've done rock wool, they've done cocoa, they've done all the commercial applications of growing cannabis, and they've kind of come back to the reality that hey, you know what? Get a big bed, throw some worms in there, feed the worms. The worms feed the plants. The worm poop feeds the plants. Just like real simple. Whoa, that's really complicated. It's like, yeah, how about that for craziness? That we've actually gone full circle back to the most simple way of growing, and that actually is the most. It's the most profitable because at the end of the day, when you grow organically and you're using the same soil for 4 to 6 years or 7 years or 8 years or whatever, and you're just adding, you're adding basic amendments and things, you can bring your costs down. I mean, Dragonfly Earth Medicine out of Canada, their outdoor costs them approximately $5 a pound to produce. So that's a winning game right there, right? $5 per pound production costs, not including labor, of course, but that's just the inputs. But how's that for a simple way of looking at it, right?
Absolutely. It's so funny too, like the first time I ever grew back in like this was when I was getting out of high school in like 2004, so still very late to the game. But the first time I ever grew, the guy who introduced me to it introduced me to Soma and making Soma beds. And we built these like
Mm-hmm.
giant beds in the basement of this rental property that I was in. And I just remember going through a whole year of growing in there and giving up on it because it was so hard to move it all out and change the dirt. And it's kind of funny to come full
Yeah.
circle, exactly like you're saying, to go back to everybody building these giant beds and keeping all the dirt in there and everything. It's so funny to watch it all come full
Yeah.
cycle. And you're right, I experimented with everything over the years. I always say, like, my local grocery store, I was their best customer, dude. I was like a kid in a candy store. Anytime a new product came out, I was flush with cash and I was willing to
Yeah,
buy it and try it,
yeah,
And you
yeah,
go through all these
yeah.
iterations of
Oh
trying
no, I'm the
everything.
same. Anytime I go to, I always spent about $1,000 more than I thought I was going to spend at any grow shop I went to. I was like, I'd go in there expecting to buy like some pH down or something, and I'd come out with like a new, like the brand new clone machine or something stupid. I'd just be like, oh yeah, yeah, I got to take that. Give me one of those. Give me one of those. Two of those. Three. I was like Rodney Dangerfield in Caddyshack or whatever when he was like, give me one of those and two of those, these and six of those.
He's like
you know.
shopping in the golf store.
But yeah, exactly, exactly. So that was pretty much me. That was like me in any grow shop pretty much. Uh, but the yeah, I think I think it's and there's plenty of other. Obviously, there's lots of other innovative, cool things coming out of there. But I think the key is like nowadays, it's about efficiency and deliverability. Like when it comes to comes to smoking dabs or whatever. Like right when we first met, it was we were still using swings, right? It was still a swing or something along those lines, and now or Atom Smasher. I don't know if you remember the Atom Smasher. Did
Yeah.
you ever see that?
Yeah.
You remember
Absolutely.
that?
Yeah.
I had one of the, I had one of I had one of the, I had one of those when I first got out here, and I was like, "Oh, this is dope." And it was like, but we the evolution of dabbing has been pretty amazing as far as watching how that all rolls out because now everybody's using ENA or everybody's using maybe a Puffco, something along those lines. But that I think has been pretty interesting to watch because I mean every one of us has a. We used to have a junk drawer in your kitchen with like. Uh, you'd have batteries and crap like that. And now you open up your junk drawer and it's just full of like e-pens and old attachments and like the domes on the tops of the things. And, the whole evolution has been really fun to watch, but it's also like I'm actually moving house I've been moving house these last few weeks. And it's like, I have just gone through like history of smoking apparatuses in the last few days. Like I open up another box, and it's another whole era gone by. You know what I mean? Oh, look, emails and broken down things. But yeah, it's kind of fun to watch. I mean, it's definitely the timeline is interesting.
It's so funny you bring that up. Literally this past weekend, I had a friend over. We were barbecuing, and he's like a glass head that I bought a lot of my glass off of, and he's had some stuff and some pieces that were out of some documentaries and things like that. So he was like, let's search through your collection. Let's start digging through your. I have like a whole closet of just like old glass stuff. And I'm like throwing out old nails and broken swings and like just like the history of dabbing over the years of all the stuff I've collected. Like you said, I was like going through it all. Like this could be trash. This is history. You know what I mean? So it's kind of funny to. I think concentrates
Yeah.
over the
Well,
years have evolved.
you can't throw it away.
Yeah, not all of it. Unless if
It's
it was
very
broken,
hard
I
for
threw it
cannabis
out.
people. Yeah, it's very hard for cannabis people to let go of cannabis related products in general. It's just weird. It's like you just can't do it. It's almost like throwing away. Like I can't throw away like cannabis itself. Like if I have a little bag of weed or something like that, it's like even if I know I'm not going to smoke it, I'm going to do something with it to get it to somebody because it's like sacrilege to throw it away. You know what I mean? I have too much work went into it in the long run, so just can't. So I end up with lots of little knickknacks around. That's for sure.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, dude, it has been an amazing hour. We've gone a little over an hour. Before we end, I want you to let everybody know and
Yeah,
this is
sure.
going to go on YouTube, where can everybody find you? What's in the future for Adam Dunn? What do you got going on that you can tell us? And where can everybody find you?
Well, okay, so YouTube is easy enough. It's you go to my channel there on the YouTube channel, Adam Dunn Show. Every Friday from 4:20 to 7:10 Mountain Time is live, and then obviously it's up on YouTube at all times. And you can what's coming up is okay. So obviously 4:20 is coming up. Everybody's like, "What are you doing? What are you doing?" Well, I'm not going to do anything except for do my show, but I'm going to do my show for 24 hours. So I'm doing a 24-hour show on 420 from Area 420, from 420 till 420. So there you go. There's a lot of 420s in there, but also you can go to adamdunnshow.com and check out the website, and that'll kind of get you links to any and all platforms, and old shows are kind of directly on there. And we'll keep an eye out if you happen to be in Oklahoma, keep an eye out for Top Quality, based out of Tulsa. They'll be basically they're showcasing all things Sage Master at their place, and they're going to be the ones supplying to the other shops. And if you come to Colorado, you can always come down to Area 420 because we're going to be doing tours down there with people. So come check out the grow city we're creating, basically.
I think I need to book a tour with the stream, possibly.
Oh, for sure. When it gets into the season, once it's into the summer season and there's all the outdoor mixed with the greenhouse stuff, you definitely get a drone and fly over that thing, and you're gonna be amazed. It's gonna be awesome.
If you would have me, I would love to come and do it, brother.
Cool. Yeah, no, I'm actually gonna be setting up a studio there permanently. So we're gonna do a show there from 420, but at that point, I'm gonna build a studio there, and then I'll be doing probably like every 2 weeks I'll do a show from there or something like that, because it's about 3 or 4 hours away. But what's also really cool, which I didn't mention about that whole area, and this is something that you can probably appreciate, there are no building codes in the town of Moffett at all. So it is 420 acres of growing with 0 building codes. So you can stack containers on top of each other. You can you can do whatever the hell you want, and no one's going to say a thing. And it's all cannabis, which is like the exact opposite of everywhere else when it comes to the cannabis industry. Because you're always told you can't do this, you can't do this, you can't do this, and down there you're literally told do whatever the fuck you want. So come on down. I hope to see you soon there, and anybody else who comes through, come on through.
Are licenses still available for that? And plots?
They are. They are. Call me. Give me a call on after the show, and I'll get you all linked up for that. You can help me slang a few lots. I'm sure you can do a good job.
Oh my God! Let's get this moving. All right, brother. Man, it was really good. It was really good catching up. I'm glad.
Career for you.
Right? I'm glad we got to link up, man. It's been a while. It's been too long since I've been out of Ohio. I've been locked in my state for years, so it's good to kind of catch up and touch base. And everybody in chat should check it out. I'll make sure. Now that I know you're live on Twitch, are you live on Twitch with your show on Friday? On Fridays?
Yeah. Yep.
Good to know, man. When my streams run long on Fridays, I'll make sure I send everybody there from my channel.
Yeah.
And it was good catching up, brother.
And thanks everybody listening. Of course.
Have a good one.
Anytime. All right, guys. Peace, guys. See you again.
See ya. Thank you for watching the YouTube videos. We really appreciate it. Don't forget to hit the thumbs up button, subscribe, comment down below, help us out with the YouTube algorithms. And we're live 5 days a week on Twitch, 7 a.m. to 2 p.m. EST. Come check us out. Thanks for watching.